Welcome to TTFromTheD. This is our 30-day marriage challenge, and today I'm joined this morning by Swifty McVayD, who happens to be my husband. And today's hot topic, we're going to talk about shared responsibilities in marriage. We're not going to be before you long. This is a test run to see how we're going to do things moving forward. I think it's going to be fun to have you chime in, Swift. Just to give an overview, what are your thoughts about sharing responsibilities in marriage?
I just think that every couple should be on one accord. I think the communication is very, very important, and that if you're going to be in this marriage together, that you should automatically be inclined to help pick up each other's pieces. When one falls short, the other should just, pick it up and then go forth from there. Yeah.
So do you feel that, because back in the day, there was a time when you heard people saying, well, the man bring home the bacon, right? And the woman is supposed to cook, clean, and make sure that hot meal is on the table when that husband get in from work, raise those children. In today's time, yes, we're getting back to where there's two-parent households. There was a season where there's a lot of single-parent households. But we're getting back to the moment where we see more two-parent households. However, it does appear that some husbands, and this is no shade, that's why I'm glad you're on the show this morning, but some husbands feel like if I'm the worker bee and I'm out and about and I'm taking care of home and you're home all day, whether our child is home or our child is in school, I shouldn't have to come in from work and cook, clean, and you're home all day. Now, I have to touch and agree with that. And ladies, don't get mad. Hey, if you are a homemaker, if you're at home and you got children, a child, if they're in school or they're not in school, and your husband is the person that's out and about working, there still should be shared responsibilities, fellas. Let me be clear. But as far as a meal, I don't feel like your husband needs to come home and have to cook. Now, ladies, I'm not saying we can't make reservations or do takeout. But that's one thing the husband does not need to come home if you're home all day. Now, if you work and he works, that's getting back to share responsibilities. You do. Now, I know some couples that are married. They both work outside the house. But some fellas feel like, hey, she do the cooking, I don't cook. What's your thoughts on that?
I just think couples should automatically have this thing in their mind to where they want to help pick up the pieces. I mean, it should be a thing to where you want to help make life easy for each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the purposes of getting married. Like, I love you, I know you love me. Let's get married. Let's love each other, and let's help make each other's lives easier. And that's one of the purposes. So when you come with that aspect, I think it should just be a second nature thing. It's almost like, if you're going out on a date and then if somebody pays for the movie, the other person feels like, well, let me pay for the dinner,
right?
Or vice versa,
right?
Because you both are on one accord with this mindset that we are here to help make each other's lives easier. And once you step into the marriage with that aspect, without so much expectation and just do, I think things would be just a little bit more smoother.
I touch and agree with you on that. What's your thoughts on sharing responsibility in the household as far as doing laundry, cleaning the house, raising the children? What's your thoughts on that?
Now, as far as raising the children, raising children is very, very, very important. I don't think any deep conversation comes from when a person works and a person is at home raising a child. I think they both step into this knowing this has to be done. It's a second nature thing. And I'm going to use that word very strong today, second nature. Like, I got to go to work. They shouldn't have a big, strong conversation on what should happen with the kids. Mm-hmm. You're going to automatically know that if you at work, okay, then I'm going to take care of the kids and this, that, and the third. So as far as laundry and food and things of that nature, if you want one accord doing it to make each other's lives easier, and you have some clothes in the washing machine, I'm not going to sit up here and wait for you to come home from work to put the clothes in the dryer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look, and I know I need to go ahead and do the thing, So I'm gonna go ahead and help you out by drying your clothes. That's a second nature. It's an automatic thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that analogy should be played out with any other thing you do. You're here to help make life easier for each other.
Right.
Not with no strong expectation of what that person should do, but this is what you signed up for. And I think that you should have that mindset in the very, very beginning. Husband and wife.
I agree. Unless you are a slob or if it lazy and nasty, which I would hope that you would find out about your spouse before you jump that broom, get married. Because that's a whole nother conversation. But see, that goes back to premarital counseling and things of that nature, getting to know each other. And what do you think, and I share this a lot, if we were on the newlywed game, I don't know if we'd win some points or not, what is one of the biggest connections that helps a couple build, that will start them off to have a good, successful marriage?
One of the biggest connections?
Yes.
Being equally yoked?
Yes.
Being equally yoked is one of the biggest connections that you can have. A lot of people get the word equally yoked misconstrued a lot. I've used the word equally yoked, and a lot of people think, well, I go to church. Sometimes I go to church with that person. It's not just about going to church.
Right.
It's about having the same mind, and that goes into a scripture that we were reading this morning, and it comes from 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, and it says, "Finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion for one another, love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous." And when it says be one of one mind, that's, an act of being equally yoked, meaning that you guys have the same spirit and you kind of look at things the same. And that comes from communication. Communication will help you guys look at things the same, because with that communication, you will know what we want, what we don't want, what we like, what we don't like.
Right.
And from that, listening to that from both sides will allow that equally yoked spirit to take place. And then when you're moving and doing the important things in the world, in-house or out-house, things will come together smooth.
I like the way you put that. Like I said, there was a time back in the day where, it was the way of the world. Back when my grandmother, because I had a true grandmother. Like when I was born, my grandmother was already in her 70s. She was a grandmother. And there were values and morals. Some marriages don't have values and morals, or weren't raised. Some wives weren't raised with values and morals. Some husbands weren't raised with values and morals. Some were, and then they didn't implement them in their marriage. We make our own rules in every marriage. Every marriage looks different. What works for us may not work for another person. What works for another couple may not work for us. But yet and still, there may be some things that people could say, you know what, I want to adopt that. Like I talked about it yesterday. And there's a beautiful young lady who I'm going to be interviewing very soon, who said, you know what, I'm gonna take that idea about the ducks. I shared the communication thing about our ducks. And we got that from our sister Sydney and our brother-in-law Renee. And so it was just like, we were early in the stages of marriage, and they are a couple that we admire. We love their union, how they are as husband and wife, as friends. And that's the other thing. Equally yoked brings forth also that friendship. That's that baseline. You can't build a successful marriage without friendship. I don't care what nobody say. I don't feel like it. I've never been married before. You were married prior to me. Do you feel that in your former marriage that y'all built it from a friendship perspective?
No, it wasn't built from a friendship perspective, and it wasn't a yoked marriage as well, because my spirit and my belief and with what I thought was totally different from the other.
Okay.
And we, even though we were young, we were kind of stuck in our ways, because when your spirit is set a certain way, then it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? When you're equally yoked with a person, that is a given from God. Like, your spirit is your spirit, my spirit is my spirit, and we're just so happen to be yoked because of who we are. It's not like you can go to a class to gain that type of yokeness. It's something that has to already be within you, and then through conversation, it makes it even much easier because of who we are coming together, knowing and understanding what we like and what we don't like, what we can move on or whatnot. You know, my beliefs as far as my values of how I want my child to think and how I want him to feel versus your beliefs. You know, if it coincide with each other, that's better for the child because we're equally yoked, and now we won't go against each other when it's time to do what needs to be done to instill goodness inside of this child.
Right.
You know, the way we handle people on the outside, the way we balance each other, understanding that when I'm mad, you can't be mad with me, or vice versa. All of these things is what equally yoked is being all about. Knowing how to tame each other's spirits so life can be much easier for both of us. So when I say help each other make life easier, being equally yoked is one, and the same with picking up the pieces in a household or outside the household as a married couple. You know, this is what we signed up for, to help make each other's life easy. And if you don't see that in the beginning, then you should go ahead and nip that in the bud and have a conversation, because if you don't, then you're going to go through what I call a deep rabbit hole, and it's going to be hard to get yourself up out of it once your spirit is disturbed in the long run.
That's a good analogy. I feel that conflict manifests when there's lack of communication. I also feel that when we come in feeling like, well, that's your role, that's what you're supposed to do. Who said that? Because let's be clear. Every wife, every husband has the capability of being able to cook and clean on their own. If you were separated, when you were single and engaged before you became one, you were able to do these things. I don't know what happened in some marriages where you felt like, okay, we married now, that's all you. You do all the cooking and the cleaning. Now, there are some people, now I do know this, there are some people that enjoy that. And they said, no, I don't want you to have to cook. I love to cook. Hey, more power to you. I like to cook. I love when you cook, right? And I love when we go out for dinner. I love when we get takeout. I love when we go to other people's homes for dinner, right? Because I'm greedy. I like to eat. But on a serious note, we just know at the end of the day, we all got to eat, right? If I've had a long day, when you check in with me and I check in with you periodically, whenever we do throughout the day, I feel like you gauge, should I be cooking tonight? Is she gonna feel like cooking tonight? Is this a carry-out night? Is this a, hey babe, let's go to dinner tonight? And vice versa. If you on the road, I like to, like when you come back from tour, I like to cook a home-cooked meal because I feel like, shit, you been out on the road, you eating fast food, catering, all that. I know you missed that home-cooked meal. But then sometimes we might want, you've been gone so long, I might say, well, shoot, we going to dinner because we want the ambiance. I don't want to have to cook because I want to just spend that time uninterrupted and we can just enjoy one another's company. But as far as washing clothes and ironing and getting kids ready for school and picking up toys and taking children or a child to events and rehearsals and extracurricular activities, going to parent meetings, all these things. These are things that are shared responsibilities. And I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, Swift, I feel that we both wear the same shoes when it comes to being responsible for making sure that it's an even flow.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll piggyback off of what you're saying. It takes me back to the Tyler Perry movie when he made that comment in there. And he was in the room talking to his wife, and he said,
"Which movie, dear?"
Why Did I Get Married?
Ooh, that's my man. That's my jam. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, he hit a whole bunch of different jewels on that movie.
Yes, he did.
And in that one particular scene, he said, "You give up the eyes for us." That was a very, very important message right there. And that message is very important to what we're talking about. You give up the eyes for us. Yeah. So once you step into the marriage with that aspect, things should flow second nature in the flow. So meaning, if I see that you're going through something, if you have to be somewhere and you're running late and you have so many things on your plate, it is my job to analyze that, to make sure that things can go as easy for you as possible if I can.
Right.
So if I see that you going through the house late and you got so many things to do, and you have a shirt that you're wearing, and I see that it's a little wrinkly, I should go. I'm gonna go iron it because I want to make that flow for you. You know what I'm saying? This is our duty as husband and wife. It's not like we have an expectation to say, well, you do this and you do, unless you guys had a conversation about it and say, okay, well, this is the role I'm gonna pick up because of this reason, and this is why you need to do this because of that. Yeah. You know, the communication factor has to be strong when it comes to a person assigning a role, because it has to have a strong, meaningful thing to it. I don't think a person should just wake up saying, well, you do this. The communication factor should show a good reason why that title should be held on, because it's something that's needed in this season. But when you step into a marriage and you give up the eyes for us, you have to analyze each other, and just by second nature, just do. Just do. That's when people say work is hard. Some people might say marriage is hard. I might look at it and say no, but I could see a little bit why they say it's hard, because some people are not wired to analyze each other like that, or to listen to the point to where they can pick up the pieces, and it makes it hard for the other person. And then when they realize this is something that has to be done or should be done, now they have to put themselves into a mindset of changing, and it might be hard for them to change. It might be a task. Yeah. You know, so that's when they say marriage is hard or whatnot. But, you know, give up the eyes for us.
I agree with that. I think you made me feel like one of the topics we're going to talk about is love languages. That's a good one. What's the author name? Is it Chapman?
That sounds familiar.
Is it David Chapman? Don't quote me on that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to grab that book because we have it in our library. It's a book that I think all married couples should have in their little ensemble if you like to read. It's good conversation. You could actually do it with, if you have a couple of other married groups or friends that you say, hey, let's do this book study, and do it. We did it in our married couples group in our church, and it was really, really good. It allowed us to really get to know one another on a different level as husband and wives, no matter how long you've been married. But I thank you guys for tuning in with us for the third day, day 3, which today is Wednesday. No, today's Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday. So it's Thursday, November 3rd, and this is the third day. We hope that you'll rise and shine with us tomorrow. It is our intention for the next 27 days now to bring you substance, give you something else to think about, to conversate about in your marriage with other married people. So, Swifty, thank you for jumping on this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And I request that the marriages out here who are not on one accord, that can have that conversation where they can be on one accord to make things much easier for them. And I pray that, you know, through communication, that you guys can start to begin to pick up the pieces for each other when needed. And there's no strife or hard tasks of helping make things easier for each other in your marriages.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor.fm, iHeartRadio, iHeart Podcasts, and Amazon Music. We thank you. We look forward to you joining us each and every Monday. Moving forward in season 3, we'll have more information about that. But in the meantime, just join us for the next 27 days for the 30-Day Marriage Challenge. We'll see you soon.